Hey, what's up? It's Home Inspector Dan with Property Inspections Plus. We're out in Phoenix today doing a re-inspection at a house. Now, this is the process where the home inspector goes back out to the house to check the work that the buyer didn't approve of. Say that I gave the inspection to the buyer said, "Can you fix these items?" and the seller agreed to it. So since the seller agreed to it, the buyer wants to make sure those repairs were done right. So let's get in the house and let's take a look at this house and make sure that it's good to go for my buyer. So here's a list of the items that my buyer requested that they fix. We're going to go in the attic and look at the repair to the truss. We've got a leaking water heater, properly installed circuit breaker that looks like a double tap, number 6.364 is cover and protect exposed wiring in the attic. Install a new GFCI outlet in the hall bathroom so it properly trips and resets. Properly install the batt insulation so that it isn't pushed into a corner and covers all the necessary areas in the attic. Replace all non-dedicated outlets in the kitchen area with GFCI outlets. And then lastly, properly connect the dishwasher so it's in working order. Turn on the water at the kitchen area so that the water properly flows in both hot and cold temperatures. So when we were here before, the water wasn't turned on at the sink or at the dishwasher, so we weren't able to test those two things. So hopefully today we'll get in there and we'll turn the dishwasher on, then we'll hop up in the attic and check out the other things while we run the dishwasher. Just make sure everything's good to go. So this is one of the areas where the insulation didn't get put back in where it should have gone. Those are the wall on the inside of your house isn't insulated, so you're going to have a cold spot if we shoot that with a thermal camera up there. And this is one of those situations where you called for a structural engineer to fix the attic truss, and it was definitely not done by a structural engineer, or at least approved. I don't see any stickers, so I can't really form an opinion about how well this repair is done because it's not stickered. I can tell you that a lot of those nails do not penetrate all the way right there. Some of them do, some of them don't. Even on this side, we got several that don't quite go in all the way, you know. So that's where it was cut. And this is the board that they sistered on over that hole. So is it done well? Yeah, it's probably not going to be a problem, but has it been approved by a structural engineer? I don't think so. Looks like they cleaned up those wires pretty good. It's not going to be perfect, but at least we don't have them draped around the hatch, and we're not worried about people tripping on them or grabbing them as they get up into the attic. It's not the best idea, but you guys remember this attic, right? With all the writing on it. And this is one of the issues you're always going to have with this vertical insulation. If it's not held in place, it's just going to slide down. So it's not that they didn't try to fix it, but this needs to be strapped in there so it stays in place. Liking the new ladder, if I do say so myself. See the bigger feet on this one, right? So it's got a little lip on the back side of that ladder to catch your feet. So it actually feels pretty good when you're walking up it. So this is the front of the dishwasher, right? Yeah, that hasn't been put on yet. So that just goes on the front of the dishwasher, and this kind of muffles the sound. All that padding is really for is to make it quieter. But you can see they put some plywood in down here. Kind of cleaned it up. They got the dishwasher installed. Still not plugged in. Yeah, no power. But I'm going to plug it in because we're here to test it. Pop. Well, somebody ran it. Anyway, a bunch of water in here. Here's a tip: if you're running a dishwasher in a vacant house, just leave the door open because this is going to get moldy, mildew. Just don't want to leave it wet like that. So we're just going to run it normal cycle. We start. See what we get. Watch for leaks. Now that's been on hot for several minutes and it's still cold. see if we got them backwards here. I want to make sure everything is sealed down here and we don't have any leaks. Yeah, this isn't getting any warmer. Maybe when they did work on the water heater, they didn't turn it back on. It's dry. I don't know what's going on here. They added a circuit breaker, but they put it behind this panel. You can't do that. They didn't break this piece off. So how do I know it wasn't a structural engineer that approved the repairs? Because the seller's dad is here picking up the material. So there was a circuit added here instead of having a double tap, so they fixed the double tap back here, but we got to remove this little thing here and then mark whatever this belongs to. It's not marked on the panel. So this panel is really tight now. It's really hard to get that in. You can see it doesn't want to go in all the way because we got this breaker pushing out on this right now. It's a pretty easy fix. Just got to take that off, label these so we know what they are. Okay, so now we got the hot water coming through. We're good on that. What's going on here is we've got these are backwards. So the hot should be to the back and the cold should be to the front. Not the end of the world, but if you have kids, it's kind of a big deal. You don't want them to scald themselves, so you just take those two hoses back there, the hot and the cold, and you swap them. And that would fix the problem that's going on up here. And the GFCI outlet in the hall has been fixed, which will in turn restore power to all of the bathrooms. And we're gonna go reset these all in this hallway bathroom. So when you lose power in your master or your primary bathroom, you're gonna have to come over here and push this GFI outlet. There you go. And it looks like they decided to put some GFI outlets in the kitchen as well. So when they're cooking, if something steams or boils over, there's no chance of, you know, getting electrocuted. Well, it's a lot less because you got a ground fault interrupter there. We have one over here as well. Working good. And doesn't look like the water heater's leaking anymore. Looks like we've got a tighter connection here, and I do hear it running. Well, in order to do a proper thermal camera scan of the house and check for that insulation, I have to have a temperature inside the house that's warmer or colder than it is outside. And right now it's 61 degrees out here in Phoenix. So I'm going to pump that heater on and see if I can't get a good temperature differential. So we got 63 degrees in the house. We're going to bump that heater on. Get that fan going over there. I'll turn this up. What's it set at? 70, that's fine. Bump the temperature up to 70, give it a few minutes here. So we just turned on the heating system here. It's a heat pump, so it's gonna take a little bit to warm it up, but you can see how hard it is to tell anything on the walls when it's the same temperature in the attic as it is inside the house. So you'll see in just a few minutes, we'll make all these things poke out and you'll be able to see a lot more in the attic, and you'll be able to see these missing insulation spots. See, there's just not much of a temperature differential here, so we're not getting a good view of what's up in the attic. Now, some homes are going to be built with the garage door opener and the light switches really close to the ground. So this is almost for like a handicapped person. So if they're in a wheelchair, they can just go around without reaching up. But this is also a safety problem if you have kids. The kids could walk up and open and close this door. Might cause some safety concerns for you. So you might want to mount that up a little bit higher. It's one thing to have a switch that just controls lights in here, but if you've got a controller that opens and closes that door, and you've got a kid in here flipping around trying to make some problems, you know, he could create some problems and it could be dangerous. You know, those safety switches down there, those safety lights, they might not work. So you don't want kids playing around with this garage door. It's too heavy to be a toy. So if you're going to have a few items repaired by the seller, it's good to get a reinspection just so you get an idea of what's going on and how they repaired it. You can see here things aren't perfect. They didn't get installed or repaired exactly the way that I expected them to be, but now my buyer, my client, knows what to expect and they can move forward with this information. Sometimes it's easier to just take a credit instead of hiring me to come back and check on repairs. And, you know, we hired this guy to go up in the attic and fix this, and he wasn't really a guy that was supposed to be up there fixing it. It was just the guy's dad. Was it repaired? Yeah. Was it repaired right? I don't know. Now we're starting to see a little bit of color differential. You can see the hot air just blowing out of that register right there onto that side wall. And that's a bedroom wall. So maybe you want to redirect that out into this room a little bit better. Do a quick thermal scan around the dishwasher, checking for any leaks on the ground. Also going to pop this open and make sure that we don't have anything leaking inside here. So I'm just looking for blue dots on the ground or on the floor of this cabinet. You can see the hot water going through the drain over to the garbage disposal and heating up the garbage disposal and then going out the drain pipe in the back. So I've had the thermal camera on for about 15 minutes. It's not quite warm enough yet, but you can see all the hot air that's pooling over there on the wall going up to the ceiling. So the ceiling's starting to get warm, and I'm really looking up at the top, and that should be warm enough to get me a good temperature differential right now. You see that blue spot right above the fireplace right here. That's where we have loose insulation on that vertical wall right there, just a little bit. So I wasn't able to see that until I got a decent temperature differential between the hot and the cold. So once you get those popping out, you can start to see a lot more stuff in your walls. And now we can start seeing the framing members through the wall, those little vertical lines, the blue lines. It's kind of helping us find out where we have insulation, where we don't have insulation. You can see the temperature changes there when I get that hot spot, because it's a range, right? So here's your attic access hatch. Insulated pretty well. A little bit of blue coming down around the corner there. That's because the hatch isn't sealed very well. Yeah, you can see we're looking for hot air, looking for blue spots. Areas that don't have any insulation are going to be blue. They're going to be cold because the hot air didn't change them on the inside yet. Can you see how much better that looks after a few minutes of running the HVAC system? Really see that dark spot up there now. Yeah, we need some insulation above that fireplace. So the dishwasher ran for its full cycle, no problems with it, but we're going to leave this door open, right? Let that thing air out. Yeah, usually you gotta leave them like that. Because if this is gonna sit here for another couple weeks without anybody living here, we don't want that to start growing mold and mildew, and when they moved in, they've got to clean out their dishwasher first thing they do. So yeah, there's a little bit of water damage back there from previous water leaks, but they didn't ask them to swap out this woodwork, so they're gonna do it themselves. If you're asking for work to get done, it's good to get a third party to come in and get it checked. I would highly recommend just going after the concessions.